Well, let me tell you something, brother.
Snort, snort, snort.
Kogan. Drip.
Snort, snort.
I got the drip. Go. Typically on my day off, what do? Well, usually I wake up, spend some time with my family, and then we will make like our grocery list for the week. What meals do we want to have this week? What else do we need for around the house? I'll run out and if I need pet supplies for Jasper, we'll do that. And anything else that I need to get out when I'm out running around. For example, my wife sometimes has orders and things at places I got to go pick up while I'm out or whatever. Odds and ends, maybe you run out of something in the house. Let's get it. It's the day off. Let's go get it today, right? So really, it's an errand day. I run around doing a lot of errands on my day off, but then typically on the one day off from streaming I get a week, we order out, so that way we don't have to cook. We cook literally every other day, every other meal, so it's nice to not have to cook for one day. So that's one thing that we do, and then anything else that happens during that day. So it just so happens, yesterday was a pretty eventful day, for some good reasons and some not so good. So here's something interesting you may not realize, because it really depends on where you live. I have no idea where many of you live, because you probably live all over the world, correct? Here in the United States, at least where I live in the state of Washington, and we are considered a green state. Okay, what does that mean? It means that here in our state, we do everything we can to try to be environmentally friendly and economical in that regard. Recycling is a huge deal. Disposing of certain kinds of things in certain ways is a huge deal. Other places, they're just like, just throw everything out. Go to a landfill and just throw garbage dump. Just dump everything. We don't do that here. We are very strict on the ways that things are disposed, on the ways that things are separated, all kinds of stuff like that, okay? So why am I telling you this? Is it because I went on a trip to the garbage dump this week? No, absolutely not. So, you guys may be aware of something that happened a few years ago. It was called the pandemic, the COVID pandemic. And when the COVID pandemic happened, it threw a lot of things into disarray. Here in the state of Washington, we are required to separate all of our trash into the following. You ready for this? This is going to be pretty interesting. First of all, you're supposed to have standard trash, but that doesn't include food. So it's supposed to be standard trash, but no food, okay? Then you have recyclables. Recyclables include cardboard, paper, plastic, glass, but they're all supposed to be fully cleaned off and sorted and separated, okay? Then you have your compostables, meaning food waste and yard waste and things like that, and you're supposed to put that into a separate thing so that can be composted and for again green purposes, okay? Then I'm not done. We're not even close to being done. Then there's electronics. You are not allowed to dispose of certain kinds of electronics in the state of Washington. You want to throw out that old PC? Absolutely not. Do you have something that has like a small engine in it? Can't throw it out. I'm not kidding. I have an old TV that busted like from years ago, and it's still in my house. I haven't disposed of it yet because you have to go somewhere special to get rid of electronics. You can't just throw them out. Not allowed here. Okay? But the point I'm actually getting to is kind of interesting. It has nothing to do with any of those. It's the fifth kind of trash. The fifth kind of trash that we have here in the state of Washington, get this, is styrofoam. Yes, styrofoam. That product that's typically used for packaging of something else that's way more important, like an electronic or a piece of glass or whatever, to make sure it doesn't get broken in transit, okay? So why am I telling you this? Because pre-COVID, my wife and I would regularly go on what we called styrofoam runs. What does that mean? You have to go to a special place that's designated as a styrofoam recycling drop-off facility. And get this, you can't just go and drop styrofoam off. You've got to have styrofoam in special bags, and you either can give them the special bags, or you need to dump all your styrofoam, and you have to make sure there's no tape on it, there's nothing else, no cardboard can be included with it. It's like, this is what they want in the state. Like, nothing can be simple. Everything's got to be like the most complex, time-consuming project you could ever think of. That's how they live here. Like, they all have time to do this shit, I guess. Anyway, so, before COVID happened, my wife and I were on top of this. It wasn't a big deal. Maybe every 2-3 months we do a styrofoam run, and we drop off one big garbage bag of styrofoam from packages and things that have arrived at the house, and that was that. But during COVID, all of 2022 and into 2020, No, excuse me, 2020 and into 2021. I got that confused. During 2020 and into 2021, they suspended the styrofoam collection process, stating that it would be too dangerous. All that infectious styrofoam, apparently, right? You can't trust it. So they didn't collect it for like a year and a half. And then sometime in 2021, they basically started to slowly go back. And then by last year, everything was back to normal. All right. But the difference here is that we have basically been thrown out of our rhythm. And I'm not kidding you. You know, that was almost 2 years of collecting styrofoam. We had probably 3 or 4 giant garbage bags of styrofoam saved up. Well, fast forward, we haven't been to do a styrofoam run since before COVID hit. All right? So we had, I'm not shitting you, probably 8 to 9 bags of styrofoam. I'm probably, of all the area in my garage where you can walk around, I'm not shitting you, it's probably about 1/4 of my garage was full of fucking bagged styrofoam. And it just sat there because it just kept increasing more and more. It's like, when am I going to have time to take a day away and go to the styrofoam place with 9 bags of fucking styrofoam and get rid of this? All right? That was yesterday. Yes, I finally did it. I had enough. I was like, dude, this garage is in disarray, because it was. Like, the garage was kind of dirty, and other things had been kind of neglected in the garage because half of it was full of styrofoam. I can't do anything till this styrofoam's gone. So I finally had enough. So yesterday I went and I got rid of it all. It was a pain in the ass to lug it all into the car and then lug it all trip after trip out of the car into the place. But I got it done. Okay? And so, I'm not kidding you, my garage went from being insanely cluttered to pretty much open. So yesterday, my wife and I spent a good chunk of the day cleaning the garage. You know, sweeping, vacuuming. And the thing was, now this is a weird thing. My garage has ceiling lighting. What is it called? They're not neon tubes, but you know how you have those tube lights that normally would be like the ceiling of like an office or like a professional workspace, a warehouse. What are those called? Those tube lights. I don't even know what they're called. Okay? But for some odd reason, fluorescent lights. Thank you. That's what they're called. Fluorescent tubes. That's exactly what they're called. Thank you. I didn't even know the name of them. For some reason, we have those in our garage. No one else where I live has that, but we have it because the previous owners of this home, before I bought it, apparently this home was owned by a guy who was a Alaskan salmon fisherman. So for more than half the year, he didn't live here. He went to Alaska and fished salmon, and he only came back here during certain times of the off season of fishing. During the time when he wasn't here, he left the house alone with his kids, his teenage kids. So what ended up happening was they just did whatever they wanted, and I guess one of his sons was a car guy. He was heavily into cars. He loved cars and modding cars and doing all this shit to cars, and he turned the garage into an unofficial, likely illegal car modification bay / chop shop. Okay? Yeah, so really, our garage is very weird because they did all these things to it that the other garages here don't have. First of all, the whole floor's messed up. You could see that cars were in and out of here constantly. You could tell that they were doing oil changes because there's like oil stains and shit all over the floor of the garage. Like, what the hell? Like, this is a private community I live in. You're not allowed to do that. It outright states in the bylaws of the community, you cannot do that. You can't operate a business like that out of your garage having people driving in and out at all hours. It's supposed to be a private residential home. And that's in the bylaws that we live here. So they were outright just ignoring the rules of the community doing this. Okay? So we have a series of 5 different fluorescent bulb lights on the ceiling of our garage. Now, I never messed with them, but it's funny. They actually left behind this pack of 12 fluorescent bulbs unused, just sitting in the garage. They've been there for the 9 years I've lived here. They just sat there. And over the time that I've lived here, there's 2 lights that go on. Whenever I flick the light switch, there's 2 big fluorescent lights that turn on. And over the years, one of them has completely busted and wasn't working. I guess the bulbs are blown out. But I couldn't replace the bulbs because that's where all of the styrofoam was sitting. So until I removed the styrofoam, I couldn't actually fix the things that were broken in the garage. So now that the styrofoam was gone, my wife and I were able to sweep, vacuum, and I went and replaced some of the bulbs. So now the garage actually looks like a livable, usable space for the first time in many, many years. And in fact, we just have a few other things. Like we have a couple like old bookcases. We have an old shower stand from our shower that doesn't work anymore. We have a few odds and ends. We have a broken fan that we need to get rid of. And eventually I'm going to take another probably trip to the garage, excuse me. Now I was thinking car garage in my head. Another trip to the dump, a special trip to get rid of all that shit. And once all that stuff's done, now we're going to actually do a like ceiling to floor cleaning of the garage. We're going to, basically be scrubbing this sucker out. We actually have a hose in the garage. We've never used it before. So we'll probably use the hose to spray the edges of the garage and scrub it all out and just make it ours. Because I've lived here for 9 years and I literally have never used the garage for much besides throwing trash and storing like paper goods and stuff like that. I don't really use it. Finally, I could probably find a reason to use it for something, but I gotta freaking get it cleaned first. So that was a big chunk of my day yesterday, was getting rid of the styrofoam and cleaning the garage. At least I got the bulbs replaced. We did a little bit of, the initial cleanings there. And now what we're waiting on is, I got to take another trip to the dump to get rid of the rest of the shit. And then once it's completely cleaned out, then we can actually fully clean it and maybe start using it for other things. Just all these things you talk about over the years, but you never got around to it. Well, maybe now we can finally get around to it. Okay? So, I guess we'll see what happens here. So, that was half of my day. Of course, I went out, I did grocery shopping, pet supply shopping, and we ordered some food. We got some Indian food for dinner last night. I got a vegetable curry. It had potatoes and peas. I can't remember what it was called, but it was pretty good. And we got veggie samosas as well. So I had a full vegetable dinner. No protein whatsoever. It was all veggies. Vegetarian dinner from a Indian restaurant. Also naan bread. You take that naan bread, you dip it in your curry, you eat. Oh my God. There is nothing else like fresh made restaurant quality naan bread in a curry. It is super duper good. I love it. So, that was absolutely delicious. And, what else did we do? Well, one thing we didn't want to have to do, it's kind of annoying. So, just recently, as recent as like less than a month ago, we had changed out, like everything in the house for fall. So, you know how you go from summer stuff to fall stuff? So, one of the things that we had done is we had completely changed out like all the bedding and everything to be more heavier bedding for the fall. Well, yesterday, Jasper Kitty decided he had to barf on the bed. Like, well, time for a full-on cleaning. So we had to clean not only, the sheets and everything, but the comforter, the mattress pad, everything had to be fully washed. They're like, oh, man. So we have to clean all, and that, that's just an endeavor, because that's like multiple loads. You can't, our comforter's a huge comforter. You can't wash that with sheets. It clogs the actual washer up. So you got to do like first a load for the comforter, then a load for the sheets, then a load for the mattress pads. So it's like washing clothes for hours and hours all day. It takes forever. So we had to do that as well.
I got the drip going. 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 It's like a faucet that's dripping. You can't make it stop. So what do you want me to do? Have a mute button that every second I'm tapping the mute button just in case I'm gonna have to clear? Like, this is what I mean, these dumb kids. This is what it is. It's dumb kids.